These guys are creepy and, yes, just weird as hell.
Yes, says Tim Walz, who evaded his deployment to Iraq. You know what's creepy? A $34 trillion national debt, child genital mutilation, illegal aliens getting free college and free health care when Minnesota taxpayers do not. You know what's creepy, pal? You're creepy. Tim Walz, Kamala's vice presidential running mate, the Democrat Party's vice presidential candidate. Isn't that amazing? You know, it's creepy. Your creepy wife. Your wife is a creep. What? His wife is a creep? Well, stand by a sec. Here's the headline. Tim Walz's wife said she wanted to smell the fires of 2020 Black Lives Matter riots because it was a touchstone moment. She loves the riots. They love the riots. They love the crime. They love the criminality. They love the murder. Dozens of people were murdered in the Democrat Party riots over George Floyd dying of heart failure because of all the fentanyl and methamphetamine in his system while he was resisting arrest yet again, and he became a Democrat saint. The Daily Caller has the story. Tim Walz's wife said she wanted to smell the fires of the 2020 Black Lives Matter riots because it was a touchstone moment. That was her word, touchstone. Democrat Governor, Minnesota, Tim Walz's wife, Gwen, said she left her windows open to, quote, smell the burning tires, end quote, during the 2020 Black Lives Matter riots because she felt it was a touchstone moment. In an interview with Glenn Walz, discussing the 2020 riots and her reaction to them, resurfaced on Tuesday after Vice President Kamala Harris announced she would be choosing the Minnesota governor as her running mate for the 2024 election. In the interview, which was aired on KSTP TV's 5 Eyewitness News Nightcast channel, Gwen, the governor's wife, the first lady of the state, could be heard talking about the riots and her choice to leave the windows open as long as the city was being burned by looters and rioters. She said, I could smell the burning tires. That was a very real thing, and I kept the windows open as long as I could because I felt like it was such a touchstone of what was happening, Gwen said. Good. I guess they didn't come to your house to burn it down, huh? But they did burn down thousands of buildings and thousands of businesses, and they caused, I think, $500 million in property damage, and the Democrats celebrated that. They loved that. They're all in favor of that. Also, Minnesota under Governor Tim Walz, the police forces shrunk in Minnesota by 40% with retirements, resignations, and defunding the police. But violent crime is up 30% under Tim Walz. At least 30%. And price increases in the state of Minnesota up 22% under Governor Walz. 50,000 Minnesotans have fled the state between 2020 and 2022 because, they're making things better. The Democrats, they're making everything better. That's what they do. They destroy. And then they say, aren't we great? Isn't it great that we did all this? Isn't it wonderful? Man, oh man. Yeah, this article says at least 19 people died during the riots. I think that's just in Minnesota. 19 people died in the riots between the death of George Floyd and Governor Tim Walz's Gwen. His wife Gwen left the windows open so she could smell Minneapolis burning. Sure. Nice bottle of Chardonnay, perhaps. Yes, sir. Isn't that amazing? All right, that's your Democrat Party. They're not on our side. They're not on the side of civilization. They're not on the side of law and order. They're anti-police and pro-riots. They're anti-Israel and pro-Hamas. They're anti-police and pro-George Floyd. And they're, anti-Semites like Cori Bush and so on. I was doing doing a funny reading from one of the articles on the crazy people here. It's a Washington Post columnist, Karen Attiah. She's African American. I know because she was named Journalist of the Year and got a big award, Journalist of the Year, the National Association of Black Journalists. I'm in line this year for an award from the National Association of White Journalists. Oh, wait, there's no such organization because that would be racist, wouldn't it? National Association of White Journalists, that's racist. National Association of Black Journalists, not racist. See how that works? That's how that works. Yeah, and Karen Attiah, she's jumping up and down. Yay, because she hates the Jews. She doesn't like the Jews. Let's be honest. That's the thing about Karen Attiah at the Washington Post, because it's noble to hate the Jews. That's one of the things about the Democrat Party, isn't it? Yes, it is. Karen Attiah, she's pumped. Team Walz, all capital letters with 10 exclamation marks. Team Walz. The Washington Post doesn't fire her. They promote her. She misspells it's our time. What's our time? He's a white guy. He's a white guy from Minnesota who abandoned his National Guard unit and ran away when they were deploying to Iraq. Yeah, it's your time. Anti-American, anti-Semite cowards. Attiah wrote that she would, quoting her now, never forgive, she said. She'd never forgive President Joe Biden for defending Israel's right to exist. And Kamala Harris's VP choice showed, Harris and other Democrats were finally paying attention to the internet and social media, said, where Walz is Karen Attiah, because Walz has been the favorite among young people who hate Israel as much as she does. That's the Democrat Party. That's not the Democrat Party that I grew up with. That's not the way the Democrat Party used to be. The Democratic Party isn't democratic. They're not on our side. And by the way, Joe Biden has not held a public event all week. He's the president of the United States, in theory. He actually hasn't had anything public since last Thursday when he announced the prisoner swap. Did you see him walking on the jet that the prisoners were brought home on? He got lost and nobody could figure out what he was doing at Joint Base Andrews Air Force Base. The jet came in, a nice Gulfstream jet made in Georgia, made in America, thanks to the patriarchy. You're welcome. And Joe Biden wandered onto the Gulfstream jet, and nobody knows why, and he spent about 2 minutes in there. And the hostages had come off the jet, and he wandered on. And then the next day, they made up a story. Oh, he went in to thank the pilots because they landed the plane without crashing. Also, the Washington Free Beacon today, Biden almost botched Russian prisoner swap. Tony Blinken actually in charge, report. The Washington Free Beacon reporting the news, the Washington Post not reporting the news. Sleepy Joe has no idea what's going on. Andrew Stiles, writing, the Wall Street Journal on Thursday, published an extensive report on the secret negotiations to secure the release of Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and from a Russian prison. It included a startling passage about how President Joe Biden, sometimes referred to as Sleepy Joe, almost botched the prisoner exchange because he has no idea what's going on and strongly suggests that Secretary of State Antony Blinken is actually running the show. But that's okay because Democrats, they just, it's pass the torch. He stepped aside, And she wanted to smell the burning city because, it's a touchstone moment. Man, oh man. And the National Review with the story. When the Twin Cities burned, Tim Walz dithered. He dithered and dithered, and he didn't call up the guard. Amazing stuff. Now, I've got some of that didn't call it the guard stuff. I've got more audio to get to, and so let's get to some stuff. Let's go to soundbite number 7. Jeff Wolf is in today. Michael Piercy, who came on our sea cruise with us along with his bride, stayed in England for a few extra days, and we're not going to see Michael Piercy until next week, if we see him at all. Oh, and by the way, while we were there, sailing around the British Isles, 3 little girls were murdered by the Rwandan British son of Rwandan immigrants. Rwanda known for only one thing, the 1994 massacre of 800,000 to 1 million Tutsis by the Hutus. And then, hey, immigrate to Great Britain, where now the number 1 name for a newborn boy is Mohammed. And the number 2 name for a newborn boy is Mohammed by a different spelling. And everything's fine. And the 17-year-old Rwandan, born in Wales to Rwandan parents, went to a dance event for little girls and murdered 3 little girls with a giant knife and wounded 9 more. And and that's caused riots and all kinds of mayhem across Great Britain. And it was going on while we were there. And I don't even know how many cities, a dozen cities, riots, and it's people who are fed up with immigrants and immigrant groups coming into Great Britain that are hostile to Great Britain, that bring their cultural values that are not British or English cultural values. And the massacre of these 3 little girls has led to an outburst of people with British flags and Israeli flags. And bad things have happened. They attacked a motel that was set aside for refugees because they're sick and tired of being overrun by refugees and foreigners, largely from Muslim countries, that are hostile to the English culture and the British culture. And so there have been riots. And then the news media plays a game. They didn't reveal that it was a Rwandan 17-year-old male that committed the massacre. And 3 little girls. One of the little girls, 6 years old, was named BB King. Her last name is King, and her parents named her Bibi, B-E-B-E. And she was butchered by this 17-year-old Rwandan young man. 3 murdered, 9, I believe, more wounded. And it's caused riots all over England. And then Antifa came out to attack the people that they're being identified as right-wing anti-immigrant, right? What they are is they're sick and tired, they're fed up, they've had enough of the left and foreign invaders coming in waves that are hostile to British culture and English culture. And I had an amazing conversation with a British man in his 80s who was surrounded by all his liberal friends, and he was telling me that he's sick and tired of the culture being sold out. And something is happening there in Great Britain. Something is happening. Elon Musk suggested on X, on Twitter, that civil war may be in the offing in Great Britain because of the hostility of, let me say, when we were leaving London day before yesterday, headed to Heathrow Airport from my best girl's aunt's house where we had lunch day before yesterday, the Uber driver was a Russian or Ukrainian, and he was bad-mouthing London. And so what's wrong with London? And he said, well, the crime, for one thing, with a thick Russian or Ukrainian accent. And I said, well, why is there so much crime? And he said, unvarnished, the Muslims. Interesting. And trouble's brewing there. Now, when the Antifa people showed up, who the news media call anti-fascist, but they're the real fascists, and they're carrying Palestinian flags and Hamas flags, while the right-wing zealots who are anti-immigrant are carrying British flags and Israeli flags. And there's a great deal of violence in the streets and mayhem in England right now. And Elon Musk suggesting civil war in Britain may become a reality. I am telling you. You know, your feet, you probably noticed, support you throughout all of your summer adventures and everything else you do. Are you tired of shoes that promise comfort and support but fail to deliver? Introducing G-Defy shoes with VersaShock technology. Unlike any ordinary brand of shoes, G-Defy shoes offer superior shock absorption and trampoline-like energy return, helping provide relief from foot pain, knee pain, ankle, even back discomfort. I love my shoes. My best girl's got a pair too. Whether you're an athlete, a busy parent, just always on the go, G-Defy shoes offer the comfort and versatility that your feet crave. So say goodbye to discomfort and hello to unparalleled foot support this summer. Each pair comes with 2 free supportive orthotics and special lateral stabilizer to help improve your stride, the way you walk or run. And as a listener to our humble show, you enjoy a special summertime offer. Visit gdefy.com and get $20 off your order of $100 or more with the code CHRIS. That's GDEFY, gdefy.com. Don't forget to use the code CHRIS for $20 off orders of $100 or more. Experience ultimate summer comfort with G-Defy shoes. Visit gdefy.com today. Yeah, mayhem while we were there, all this mayhem going on. Violence and of course the people that come out and say they're tired of waves of immigrants coming into England that are hostile to English culture. They're the villains of the story. The good guys are Antifa, carrying Palestinian flags and Hamas flags. The bad guys are carrying British flags and Israeli flags. Figure that one out.
You're listening to The Chris Plante Show.
Well, Elon Musk has dialed it up a little. He's now saying a civil war in Britain is inevitable. And the Prime Minister is lashing out at him. CNN is lashing out at him. NBC News is lashing out at him. Because the 17-year-old son of Rwandan immigrants massacred 3 little girls between the ages of 6 years old and 9 years old using a big knife at a Taylor Swift dance party. Taylor Swift-themed dance party. And a lot of people in Great Britain have had it up to here. I'm holding my hand flat against the center of my forehead with waves of immigrants. First, there were reports that it was a Muslim that did it. That wasn't true, a Rwandan. People are fed up, not just in Great Britain, but across Western Europe, being overrun by people hostile to their culture.
This is The Chris Plante Show.
All right. Going through the news coverage of what's going on in the United Kingdom and Britain right now to murder the 3 little girls at the little girl dance party by the Rwandan. And it's true, early on there were false rumors spreading that it was a Muslim asylum seeker that had murdered the 3 little girls. Turns out it wasn't. It was the son of Rwandan immigrants that murdered the 3 little girls and stabbed several more. And a lot of people there, including this Russian or Ukrainian immigrant that was our Uber driver taking us to Heathrow day before yesterday, blaming Muslims. The, Great Britain, it's going on in Sweden, it's going on in Greece and in Italy and in France. Western Europe is a mess right now because of open borders policies primarily and waves of immigrants coming in that are hostile to the cultures that have been, building up for thousands of years. And they kind of like their cultures in many cases. The left don't. And I'm looking at a NBC fake news story on what's going on there. And they spend all their time attacking Elon Musk and don't even describe what happened to the little girls. Forget about that. That's water under the bridge. But Elon Musk talking about civil war being inevitable, so he must be attacked. Kind of a peculiar way to cover this story, I think. Remarkable times we are living in. And here in the United States, we've got this China-loving, illegal alien-loving Democrat governor from Minnesota, Tim Walz, who gives free health care to illegal aliens, free tuition, not just in-state tuition, mind you. You know, it's a better deal than being a legal resident who was born there, grew up there, been paying taxes all your life. And Tim Walz gives illegal alien gang members from Venezuela a much better proposition. Very generous of him. It's other people's money. While his wife leaves the bedroom windows open so she can smell the fires from the riots. In 2020, Black Lives Matter. J.D. Vance, United States Senator, who actually did serve in Iraq as a United States Marine, unlike Tim Walz, who dropped out of his National Guard unit, Minnesota National Guard unit, when he learned they were deploying to Iraq, and still lays claim to holding a rank that he did not achieve in the Minnesota Army National Guard. J.D. Vance, President Trump's running mate, of course, who proudly served in the Marine Corps, didn't drop out of his unit when they deployed to Iraq, an aviation unit. J.D. Vance on Kamala Harris's choice.
These guys want to destroy the American energy sector, which would make us more reliant on China for the goods that we need.
China.
They want to open the American southern border. And like you said, not only does she want Medicare for all, she doesn't even care if you're a citizen. Governor Walz actually promoted the Black Lives Matter rioters who set Minneapolis on fire, destroyed a lot of black businesses, destroyed a lot of wealth in these historically black neighborhoods. And it really caused the poverty to skyrocket in Minneapolis.
But that's okay, because they're Democrats, and, you know, their heart's in the right place. Gender-affirming care for anyone, no matter how young. Isn't that amazing? And he signed a bill putting feminine hygiene products, menstrual products, in all school bathrooms, grades 4 to 12. That means boys' rooms, the boys' rooms. He kept schools locked down during the Wuhan until February of 2021. Amazing stuff. And the news media loves it. The New York Times headline, Walz throwing punches at Republicans, makes his big entrance with Harris. The New York Times' second glowing story, Kamala Harris and Coach Walz, in quotation marks, ease into their new partnership. They've got a new partnership. Walz, way back when, from August of 2020, talking about the fact that Democrat mayors were pleading in Minneapolis and beyond, pleading for the National Guard to be called up while their cities were being burned and looted and sacked and plundered. But Walz's wife left the windows open because she wanted to smell the fires. It's a demented bunch of people. Kamala Harris's running mate, Tim Walz.
I don't think the mayor knew what he was asking for. He wanted the National Guard, and what does that mean? I think to the mayor, yes, I think it's a perception. I'm certainly not questioning that. I think the mayor said, I request the National Guard. Whew, I'm out. This is great. We're going to have massively trained troops. No, you're going to have 19-year-olds who are cooks in some cases. And what are we going to do and how are we going to use them?
Yeah, screw you, mayors. You don't get any National Guard. The rioting will continue. And by the way, while he was refusing to call up the National Guard to stop the rioting, Kamala Harris was busy raising money to bail out the looters, the arsonists, the violent mobs, the criminals that were sacking, looting, and plundering. Kamala Harris was raising money through a left-wing radical Minnesota fund to get the criminals, the rioters, back on the streets. Isn't that amazing? The Washington Post has piece after piece today on how great Tim Walz is, including this one. Walz, a relatively little-known governor, takes national stage as running mate. Walz has faced criticism from Republicans that his policies as governor were too liberal. including legalizing recreational marijuana for adults, protecting abortion rights. They kind of gloss over the fact that it's right up to the moment of birth. Expanding LGBTQ plus protections. Really, they're lacking protections in Minnesota. He expanded, they call it protection. Protected from what? From your fellow Minnesotans? What were they doing? Implementing tuition-free college for low-income Minnesotans. They leave out for illegal aliens, tuition-free college for illegal aliens illegally in the country, Venezuelan gang members that just got here. It's free for you, my friends. Very good for you. Tuition-free college for low-income Minnesotans and providing free breakfast and lunch for school children in the state. You know, it's not about school lunch. It's about child genital mutilation while keeping the parents in the dark. That's kind of the big deal here, gotta say. Man, oh man. And his ties to China, not in the Washington Post stories. Not at all, not at all. Tim Walz's journey from high school coach to vice presidential candidate. The propaganda that the Democrat media peddle is just beyond belief. It is like nothing we've ever seen in America before. The most corrupt institution in the United States, the news media. Where Walz has stood on key issues in nearly 2 decades of public office is another one of the many stories, glowing stories about Walz. Walz quickly created a mask mandate when the Wuhan came along. And listen to this. Now, again, he lived in communist China for a year. Harvard sent him there to teach in communist China. He's visited China about 30 times. Can't tell you exactly how many. He spent his honeymoon in communist China. And when the Wuhan came along, out of Wuhan, China, just by the way, Walz quickly created a mask mandate and, listen to this, a hotline for people to report other people who weren't social distancing. Deutschland über alles, communist China. These guys are commies. These are un-American people. A hotline to report, and other Democrats did this too, to report people. I saw my neighbor, my first cousin. He's not social distancing. Report him to the state. Sig Heil, meine Schatzi. Sure. They say that the hotline infuriated critics. Darn critics. Critics remain critical. Isn't that amazing? And then he flip-flopped. He pretended to be, he once carried an A rating as an elected official from the NRA, the National Rifle Association. He now supports calls for strict gun control. Walz said the 2018 school shooting in Parkland, Florida, changed his stance on guns, with his daughter urging him to take action. So his daughter told him to change. And then, because he really cares about children and funding for Planned Parenthood and gender transitioning fourth graders without telling the parents about it. Chop, chop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. After the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in June of 2022, we still haven't found out who leaked that and caused more riots and mayhem and, an assassin showing up at Brett Kavanaugh's house with a gun and magazines and burglary tools and kidnapping tools. Walz signed a bill, listen to this, protecting abortion as a state law in January of 2023. What they leave out of the Washington Post is right up to the moment of birth. But never mind that. In April of 2023, Walz signed the Trans Refuge Bill that shields people seeking and providing gender-affirming care in Minnesota. That same day, he also approved a bill banning conversion therapy. So, if your fourth grader says, your fourth grade boy says, I think I'm a girl, then they send home his genitalia in a ball jar. It's a ball jar. See, it's not as much fun when it's a mayonnaise jar. It's a ball jar. Hey, here are your son's genitals. he decided that he's a girl. So without your knowledge, without your consent, without discussing it with you, we decided to go ahead and chop, chop, fizz, fizz, put everything in a bowl jar and send it to you. That's what Tim Walz has been doing as governor of the once great state of Minnesota. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. So we did play number 8. We played number 8, didn't we? Or did we not play number 8? No, I don't think we did. Okay. Here's Tim Walz when the National Guard was, the mayors were begging for the National Guard to be called up. Oh, yeah, we did play that. We did play that one, yes. Check that one. That's for sure. Let's go to number 10, because Cori Bush is a Democrat member of Congress from the state of Missouri, from St. Louis. Poor St. Louis. She is a mental case. She is insane. She's deranged. In Washington, we have a lot of people like Cori Bush. Most of them live in bus stops with cardboard boxes over them. But she lost her primary election last night to a guy named Wesley Bell, who may be just as radical. But he was supported by pro-Israel groups. She's a virulent Jew hater, just like Kamala Harris, who wouldn't take the Jew from Pennsylvania. But here's Cori Bush when she learned that she lost the Democrat primary last night.
AIPAC, I'm coming to tear your kingdom down.
AIPAC.
And let me put all of these corporations on notice. I'm coming after you too. We will keep supporting a free Palestine, a free Congo, a free Sudan, and keep opposing genocide and human rights abuses worldwide.
Now, she supports Hamas, which is genocide. So everything, she's mentally incapacitated. She's AIPAC. First of all, the rage, the anger, the lunacy, spitting mad, sweating like a pig, screaming about AIPAC, the American-Israeli Political Action Committee, coming to tear you down. Corporations. What corporations? All corporations. Just capitalism. She's out after capitalism and the Jews. I think she thinks that, capitalism and Jews go hand in glove. And she's against genocide, but supports Hamas, which is a genocidal death cult hell-bent on killing every Jew on the planet. And she supports genocide while she says she's going to fight genocide. And in Congo, which, I don't think the Jews or the Americans have a lot to say there. And Sudan, where slavery, she's supporting Sudan, where slavery is normal today. So she supports slavery, supports genocide, opposes capitalism and Jews. And that is what she was screaming last night. Absolutely amazing people, these people. Man, oh, Manischewitz, as we used to say. All right, let's grab a quick call there, Jeff. Let's go to Brad, calling from the great state of Illinois. Brad, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, Brad.
Hey, previously you were bragging about how great your bumper music was, but I liked your hold music, the funky jazz. I'm really digging it.
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you to say. Thanks.
Yeah, you just got to get rid of the announcer telling me I'm on hold so it can keep on going.
I'll see what I can do about that. I like that.
Yeah. Hey, earlier you said something about not many people know who Tim Walz is, and that includes people that live in Minnesota.
Uh-huh. I
grew up with a guy since third grade. He's lived in Minnesota, and I was laughing at him that Kamala chose Tim Walz for her running mate. I used the term tampon Tim, and he, just was saying that, you're just being insulting like Trump and blah, blah, blah.
Uh-huh.
I said, well, you gotta look at what policies he's shown. And for everyone's edification, all they have to do is say, Google trans refuge bill and it'll go everything that you were talking about they even go farther in that they will take possession of the child. The state will, if a child wants to get trans surgery or whatever, and you, as a parent, disagree, the state will take possession of the child.
Yeah, overrule the parents. The parents have no say in it. They will not consult the parents. If the parents object, they will take the children away. They will engage in child genital mutilation. They call themselves liberals, Brad. That's kind of ironic, isn't it?
I think there's other terms for it that I can't say at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. The George Carlin words, the 7 deadly words and over the airwaves. This is the Democrat Party today. This is who they are. And again, he lived in China for a year. He honeymooned in China, communist China. His honeymoon was in communist China. He's visited China 30 times. His wife loved the smell of the riots and left the windows open at night because...
It's another Bernie Sanders.
Well, honestly, the Democrat Party is just unrecognizable as even the party of Bill Clinton. Even Hillary Clinton represents the Democrats of yesteryear. Today's Democrat Party is so radical, and it's all on Barack Obama. Barack Obama did this. Again, he was mentored by a Communist Party member named Frank Marshall Davis, and they've all got these ties to communist China. Mark Kelly was not in consideration for VP because of his ties to communist China. Eric Swalwell, Dianne Feinstein, across the Democrat Party. The Biden family taking in huge sums of money from communist China and then lied to us about it naturally.
There's only one Chris Plante. The Chris Plante Show.
So 2 of the 9 radical squad members have been ousted in primaries, and that's a good thing. Cori Bush, a radical, racist, anti-Semite, anti-capitalist, mentally ill person, Democrat in good standing, lost to a guy named Wesley Bell yesterday, and that's good. And Jamal Fire Alarm Bowman, remember Fire Alarm Bowman, he hates the Jews too, perfectly mainstream Democrat stuff. And he lost his primary election as well. Now, I'm not going to be able to get to these other ridiculous people like Ben Stiller, who explains that the only reason he's for Kamala Harris is because she's a woman and she's black and Indian. And as a white Jew, he says all white Jews want to be black. And this is the Democrat Party's thinking at this point in history. They're not well.